Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Sports. I'm CJ Tully, and we have to talk about this Miami and Ole Miss matchup. Let's talk about it. So this Miami team is coming off a huge win against Ohio State, where they were underdogs by as much as 11.5 points at one point last week. They end up winning this one 24-14. On the opposite side of things, you're going to have an Ole Miss team coming in here off a huge offensive outburst by Trinidad Chambliss and this Ole Miss team. Charlie Weis still cooking up a great game plan here for this Ole Miss team, despite everything they've gone through, as they pick up a 39-34 win over Georgia. This is a game that I think these teams match up fairly well. You look at this Ole Miss offense and how well this Miami defense has been playing, and that's where we're going to see the key matchups in this game. Starting off here with this Miami team, they held Texas A&M, a great high-powered offense with great weapons all around, to just 3 points. Now, yes, the win definitely played a factor in this game, but the way that they were able to get after the quarterback, forcing 7 sacks on the day, including 2 interceptions, and they were able to hold Texas A&M to barely converting third downs. That is huge. They were also able to lock up 2 of the better receivers in college football in Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. So this Miami team was already showing us that they were able to get at the quarterback, and this defense was able to step up. We saw this again last week against Ohio State with 5 sacks on Julian Sayin, and we also saw them have 2 interceptions in this game as well, including a huge pick 6 that really changed the momentum of this game. So can this Miami team keep that defense going? I believe so. They were the 11th ranked defense coming into the offseason or the postseason here, and I don't think that's something that they're going to let up at this point. Mario Cristobal has been phenomenal coaching this team, and they have just such an energy and a juice about them that I don't think they're going to let up. They're still looking to prove people wrong, that they did belong in the playoffs, and they did deserve the spot that they got. All of that controversy about Notre Dame and everything else, they are here to prove a point. Carson Beck, on the other hand, here to prove a point in and of himself, coming over here to Miami this season. Things were looking doom and gloom in the middle of the season. He lost them that game against Louisville, and he lost them that game against SMU. 2 interceptions in the SMU game and 4 in the Louisville game, and that is something we haven't seen with Carson Beck in this postseason, is him losing them the game. He has been a game manager, and that has worked out well for them. You hand the ball off to Mark Fletcher, 172 yards in the Texas A&M game, and he's been able to help you as well in the backfield receiving in that last game against Ohio State. So Carson Beck going for 138 yards last week. I believe it was 103 yards against Texas A&M, and if he's able to keep up with that and just be a game manager, this Miami team has a real shot with how well this defense has been playing. The other side of things, you're going to have Ole Miss, and Trinidad Chambliss has run for 21 touchdowns this season with just 3 interceptions. So it'd be very uncharacteristic of Trinidad Chambliss and this offense if he is to throw multiple interceptions, as this Miami team has forced 2 interceptions in the past 2 playoff games. You do have to look at their past game, though, against Georgia. And this team was able to light up the field and light up this game late. That is something we didn't see in the Ole Miss versus Georgia matchup the first time around, where Georgia was able to score 17 unanswered points in that fourth quarter. So the way that Ole Miss was able to respond in this game says a lot about them, says a lot about Charlie Weis still trying for this Ole Miss team, despite everything going on with Lane Kiffin and LSU. And I think that's a really big thing when we look at this game, is the way Pete Golding has really coached this team up, brought everybody together, despite all of the outside noise. Charlie Weis still working with this offense, still working with Trinidad Chambliss, and the fact that Trinidad Chambliss is still looking to come back for another year, and he's looking to do so for Ole Miss. We also recently saw that Kwan Lacey is going to be staying with Ole Miss, so this team feels together. This feels like something special, and the way that they played last game was phenomenal. Over 300 yards for Trinidad Chambliss through the air, just about 14 yards rushing. Would like to see a little bit more of that, and I think he's going to need that, especially with the high-powered defense that Miami is going to bring at you. Like I said, 7 sacks in the game against Texas A&M and 5 against Ohio State. So he is going to have to move around in that backfield. Look to see him get some over on the rushing yards. But Kwan Lacey, another guy, like I just said, coming back. He had 2 touchdowns and 98 yards on the ground this past weekend against Ohio State, and that is, again, something you're going to need to see. This is an adjustment that the Ole Miss team made. Kwan Lacey had one of his worst games this season against Georgia the first time around, comes out here and shows up in a big way in a must-win game. So this Ole Miss team is clicking. You had 2 100-yard receivers this past week against Ohio State as well. So looking forward to see this offensive Ole Miss go against this defense of Miami. Just the way that this Miami defense is playing, though, I'm going to have to take Miami over Ole Miss. I love the story. I love everything about this offense. Kwan Lacey, Trinidad Chambliss, Stribling. You have so many different weapons, but I can't bet against this Miami team right now. They seem like they're on a mission, but it's going to come down to Carson Beck. Will he be a game manager? Will he look to do too much? And will he lose this Miami team the game if he just plays management again and they leave it to this defense to make the difference. I think Miami has everything they need to make themselves a national championship contender. Hey, everybody, real quick message. If you're not already, please subscribe, like, comment. I love to engage with you guys. Check me out on social media at LRBuzz_pod. That's on TikTok and Instagram. And check out my website, letstalksports.com. That's Let's TAWK Sports.com. Thank you guys, and I appreciate it.